Why so alone, little earthling?
My parents removed a disease gene before I was born, but they didn't give me enhancement. The other kids can see in the dark or run super fast. They say I'm basic.
Last time I came to your planet, humans taught me that the best upgrades come from resilience, not a lab. When everything's perfect, no one grows.
So, not being perfect might be good?
Yes. You learn to adapt, overcome fear, and shine on your own. That's something no gene edit can replace.
So, if I keep adapting, what do I become?
Something no one could ever design.
A few weeks ago, my boyfriend and I had dinner with a married couple. During the night, our conversation turned to babies, whether we were planning for them, how many, and our preference between having boys versus girls. I said that lately I'd been leaning towards wanting a girl. Then she looked at me and said, well, you know, right, that you can just ask your doctor. In my head, I was like, that doesn't sound accurate. I mean, I know about CRISPR technology, which we'll discuss in the video, but this seemed like embryo editing, which is highly regulated. Even if they've managed to pull that off, it didn't seem like something that you can just ask your doctor for. But she seemed very convinced. Maybe she was talking about some other innovation that I wasn't aware of. So I decided to go along with the conversation and fact check at home. She pressed me for an answer, but honestly, I didn't know what to say. I just told her probably I wouldn't choose. When she asked why, kind of surprised since 1 minute ago I had just said that I wanted a girl, I just told her I guessed I prefer things natural and I prefer leaving things to chance. The next day, I started questioning that answer. By the way, I did my research regarding whether gender choice over the counter is actually possible. And of course, gene editing came up, along with some other questionable methods out there, such as doing in vitro fertilization, analyzing the embryo's gender, then implanting the desired one, and kind of discarding the rest of the embryos. But going back to my mental inquiry, I asked myself, what's really behind my reluctance? Is it fear of change? Fear of innovation? I reconsidered my answer about leaving things to chance or trusting nature. I realized that argument didn't fully convince me. 2 years ago, I made the decision to freeze my eggs, just in case I ever needed them in the future. The procedure includes daily hormonal injections, which I doubt many would consider natural. But when I made that decision, the idea of being unnatural or leaving things to chance didn't even cross my mind. And then another concern came up. What if changing one thing affects another? As an engineer, I tend to see things as part of a system. If you alter one component, you might create unintentional consequences somewhere else. What if choosing a specific trait meant increasing the risk of something else? Then I thought maybe it's not about nature at all, nor the hidden trade-offs. If I had the option to prevent a serious genetic disease to my future child in a guaranteed, safe way, I would probably do it. That kind of intervention makes sense to me. But when it comes to gender, intelligence, looks, something still doesn't sit right with me. Then I came across an article from Josie Zahner, a geneticist designer, and she said, yes, it can be unsettling to realize that nature took millions of years to stumble upon life's intricate designs. And now an eager amateur with a CRISPR kit might edit a gene in a day. But let's remember, hesitation, it's not the same as morality. It's often just fear of the unknown. I realized I needed to learn more, to stop seeing this from a single angle and try to understand the full picture. And that's why I made this video. Not to give final answers, but to explore these questions together and figure out what this means for all of us. I hope you enjoy it.
Today, we're talking about designer babies. No, not those miniature Gucci models on Instagram. We're talking about genetic engineering, where parents might soon choose their kids' traits like items in a vending machine. Buckle up, because things are about to get weird. Picture this. You walk into a fertility clinic, pop on some VR goggles, and select your future child's hair color, IQ, athletic prowess, maybe even their flawless music taste. Because who doesn't want a kid whose Spotify Wrapped is an elite mix of indie, nostalgic 2000s hits and chill lo-fi beats to study to? But jokes aside, designer babies typically refer to embryos genetically modified, often via a revolutionary tool called CRISPR, to either prevent disease or enhance certain traits. It's like upgrading your phone, but instead you're upgrading your future offspring. So what is CRISPR? It's a gene editing tool based on a bacterial immune system discovered in the late 1980s. Its modern use really took off around 2012. How does it work? Think of it as a molecular Swiss Army knife that can snip DNA at precise locations. For example, if you want to remove a gene linked to a hereditary disease, CRISPR can cut it out. Or if you want to add something fancy, like the ability to see in the dark like a cat, CRISPR can insert that trait. Who needs a flashlight when your eyes can just adjust? Why are we even consider genetically fine-tuning our future kids in the first place? Imagine a world where parents no longer have to worry about their child inheriting devastating genetic conditions like cystic fibrosis or Huntington's disease. With gene editing, these illnesses could be stopped. Over 10,000 monogenic diseases exist today, affecting millions globally. Thanks to CRISPR and AI-driven simulations, we may soon have a targeted way to edit them out of existence, not in centuries, but potentially within a few decades. Imagine a future where children are born with stronger immune systems resistant to viruses and less prone to chronic diseases. For some parents, it's not about creating superhumans. It's about ensuring their kids grow up healthier, stronger, and better equipped to handle life's challenges. AI-driven models simulate gene edits, helping scientists predict and prevent off-target mutations before real trials begin. A 2022 Nature study found AI-assisted CRISPR reduced lab testing time by 40%, cutting years off research. With more precision and efficiency, AI could accelerate life-saving treatments and make genetic medicine available sooner and to more people. Sounds like a miracle fix, right? But strap in, because a massive storm of ethical and social conundrums is on the horizon. You didn't think we'd get off that easy, did you? Now let's dive into the not-so-pretty side of all this. Sure, designer babies might cure diseases and make us stronger, but what else might they do to our society, our ethics, and our sense of what it means to be human? Born into a rigged game. If this tech is expensive, only the wealthy can afford to craft perfect offspring. The gap between rich and poor, more like a canyon. Imagine growing up in a world where success isn't about hard work, talent, or perseverance. It was pre-installed before birth. The wealthiest families aren't just passing down money anymore. They're passing down perfection. If we aren't careful, genetic engineering won't just create the financial inequality we now know. It will create a permanent underclass of naturals who simply can't compete. It's like showing up to a race only to discover the other runners were gifted rocket-powered sneakers at birth, and you're still stuck tying your shoelaces. Historically, attempts to breed ideal humans led to atrocities. Now we might be facing a high-tech version. Instead of government policies, it could be parents and corporations picking traits off a menu, deciding what counts as desirable. Will certain traits, maybe even superficial ones like height or eye color, become the new standard? Could we end up wiping out genetic diversity just to fit a shallow beauty ideal? Imagine a world where everyone's 6 feet tall, blue-eyed, and polite. How boring would that family reunion be? Why we need randomness. Human variation is the secret sauce for innovation, creativity, and the unplanned sparks that lead to big discoveries. At first, it's about preventing disease. Then it's about making kids taller, smarter, better. Suddenly, better isn't an option, it's an expectation. If everyone's engineered to be a polite genius, who's going to drop out of college to start the next iconic rock band or invent eccentric new art styles? The chaotic spark in our species, those quirks, flaws, and unexpected traits, has led to major breakthroughs from Einstein's odd thought experiments to Picasso's radical art. Genetic diversity is what keeps us adaptable and unique. Without it, we risk becoming a planet of bland perfection, like a never-ending elevator music playlist. And that's just scratching the surface. Whenever we manipulate nature, nature tends to throw curveballs back at us. Let's leap years into the future. Your meticulously optimized offspring is now a 25-year-old job seeker. He practically glows with confidence.
So, which genetic enhancements do you bring to the table?
I have a 210 IQ, speak 7 languages, and single-handedly wrote code that powers half the city's AI infrastructure.
That's quite a package. We'll be in touch.
A week goes by. No callback. Why? Because another applicant had all the same upgrades, plus a newly engineered quantum sleepwalker trait, letting them solve complex problems in their dreams and wake up with breakthrough algorithms fully formed. This reveals a chilling truth, a never-ending genetic arms race, where perfection is always one upgrade away, and everyone's scrambling to keep up. All right, time to check in on our reality, folks. Let's talk about what's actually legal and happening today in labs and courtrooms. Turns out, creating a genetically modified mini-me is not yet as easy as clicking Add to Cart. In most places, editing embryos for inherited changes is either flat-out banned or tangled in bureaucratic red tape that would make your head spin. In the US, for instance, there's a ban on using federal funds for gene editing that results in a genetically modified embryo destined for pregnancy. Though like a speakeasy during Prohibition, private funding can operate in murkier territory. Now, if you prefer a world tour, Europe is known for its super tight regulations. Germany's got a don't even think about it approach, while the UK says we're open to research but we're watching your every move. Some countries, meanwhile, haven't hammered down regulations yet. It's a bit like walking into an amusement park without a map. You're not entirely sure which ride is safe and which one flings you off into the unknown. Speaking of bold experiments, in 2018, a Chinese scientist announced he'd created CRISPR babies supposedly resistant to HIV. Scientists and policymakers around the world were like, wait, can he even do that? The uproar revealed just how fragmented these laws and ethical guidelines really are. One country's "we don't do that here" is another country's "we didn't even realize we needed a law for that." So here we are, the science is racing ahead like a cheetah on Red Bull, and the law is hobbling behind like grandma on a skateboard, trying not to break any bones but determined to keep up. Welcome to the current state of designer baby regulations, a global puzzle that's missing half its pieces but still insists we play. You might think, that's fine, let's keep upgrading. But here's the twist, nature isn't a static puzzle. Genes are deeply interconnected, and tweaking one can trigger unintended biological consequences. Changing one gene doesn't just affect a single trait, it ripples through the entire system. Want to enhance muscle growth? Great, except that might also alter metabolism, bone density, or heart function in ways we didn't predict. Boosting intelligence? Sounds amazing, until we realize higher cognitive function could be linked to increased anxiety or sensory overload. We tweak one thing, and oops, suddenly your genius-level kid has insomnia, hyper-focused to the point of forgetting to eat, and an existential crisis before their 5th birthday. Even if genes are edited perfectly, the environment still influences how they behave. Stress, diet, and pollution can switch genes on or off unpredictably, meaning a child engineered for calmness could still develop anxiety in a high-pressure home. And here's the real kicker. How do we even test this in a lab? We can simulate genetics, but how do you simulate 25 years of life experience, stress, diet, and emotions in a petri dish? Are we just going to run hundreds of designer baby trials and wait 20 years to see what happens? Or maybe we're about to realize that messing with a system this complex comes with consequences we can't even begin to predict. We've covered a lot: potential health miracles, ethical landmines, a sci-fi job market, and a global regulation puzzle. If it all sounds overwhelming, take a deep breath. Yes, it's unsettling to realize that nature took millions of years to refine the human genome, and now, a single modification can be made in a day. But let's remember, hesitation isn't morality. It's often just fear of the unknown. For the first time in history, we have the power to deliberately reshape genetics. It's an opportunity to eliminate suffering, but also a responsibility that could redefine what it means to be human. The question isn't just, can we do this, but how do we do it wisely?
Hi again. When I first started looking at this, I wasn't sure if I should be excited or terrified. The more I learned, the more I realized this question didn't have easy answers. It's something we all need to think about carefully. Even some of the most respectful geneticists out there have serious doubts about using this technology on future generations. Clearly, we still have plenty to figure out. So now I'd love to hear your thoughts. Would you choose genetic editing if it guaranteed your child wouldn't suffer from certain illnesses? What if it was just for physical traits? Would that change your decision? What other implications should we be considering that I didn't cover? Let's discuss it down in the comments. And if you found value in this conversation, please like, subscribe, and share it around. Until next time, stay curious, keep questioning, and remember, critical thinking beats fear every time. Thank you for watching.